Hello, everyone. This is Ed Bredinger, and welcome to the Eddie Network podcast. My guest today is Richard Tolbert. Is that the correct way to say that?
Yeah, tall Bert and Ernie. Bert's the tall one.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a good way to remember you. Among other things, Richard is a musician, and he plays in an orchestra here in Winston-Salem. And I had the pleasure of going to their concert a couple of weeks ago, and it was just outstanding. It was an amazing thing, and we'll talk about why it's amazing here in a minute. So, Richard, I'm glad to have you here, and thank you for taking some time out of your day to be with me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be on. I've been looking forward to this.
So, tell us a little bit about what you do in your normal life, and then tell us a little bit about your musical life.
Yeah, well, what pays the bills is I'm the COO of a language services company based out of North Carolina. We service 9 states. We provide interpreting services to individuals. Some are hard of hearing deaf community. Others are English is not their first language. So we provide interpreting typically in healthcare or educational settings, sometimes out in the community as well. And that's been my life professionally over the last year or so. Um, yeah, a little bit about me, if that's helpful. I was raised in the deep South, Mississippi, South Mississippi. Was the first to graduate college out of my family, and
Where,
26.
where, where in South Mississippi?
Yeah, Hattiesburg area.
Oh, yeah.
Petal is the friendly city. I'm from Petal.
What a great name.
Yeah.
I'm a big William Faulkner fan.
Oh, okay.
So, in fact, um, I was there last fall at his house, in Roanoke, and there and
Wow.
up there. And so
There's some
we don't have to talk
notable,
about Faulkner, but that's that connection to Mississippi. And well,
yeah,
that's
notable
cool.
Mississippians. Also, Oprah Winfrey and the Muppets creator Jim Henson as well. So,
It's had a lot of great people that have come out of there. And you, Dory Welter, another great writer, but all these musicians too. I mean, um, you could probably name the musicians.
well,
Um,
Elvis, Tupelo. I mean, he's obviously known for his home in Graceland, but at Tupelo, I believe, is maybe where it began. I should know that better, but Tupelo, Mississippi.
but you have I forget what the name of it is, but there's this trail of all these important places in the blues and rhythm and blues world over there in the Delta area, and I've seen some of those places, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've played music in the Delta back when I was in high school and I was attending. We'd go to honor bands here, there, and everywhere. And Delta State University was one of them. And I remember visiting that area. It, the time of year, it's not compared to North Carolina, which has a lot of natural beauty, not a lot of natural beauty. Sorry if any listeners are from that area and just it's true to their heart, but not a beautiful place. There was a lot of kudzu and it was, but perhaps when you do visit there, uh, you can understand a little bit more how the blues music maybe found a home in some of
Yeah.
those. Yeah.
20 years ago, I spent a year going to Natchez to do work with a church there. I was consulting with a church there. Was They were going through a visioning process, and they were preparing to call a new pastor, and I was a part of that. And I spent a year going in and out of Natchez, and that I loved it down there. I thought it was great, and I mean it was so disconnected from everything else, and
That's
it,
right.
it was its own place. It really was its own place,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the place that you live. I mean, it's kind of that way too, isn't it?
A little bit, fortunately, I think for the area, Hattiesburg has a university.
Yeah.
Pretty decent healthcare system as well. So they've had some innovation and that comes with a home of a recognized university. I spent 3 years at the University of Southern Mississippi.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I had good education for being 15 minutes away from where I grew up. Uh, a really good education.
So I'm curious about this because I had a little involvement in it, but what what was going on when you were when Katrina came through, Hurricane Katrina came through? Were you still at home then?
I was living, I remember it very well. I was living in Little Rock, Arkansas at the time. I had taken on a sales leadership job at a waste hauling company and had a little team of 6 people. And I was kind of excited. I had just moved my family from my wife joined me on that journey, obviously, thankfully. But we left her home in Utah to be a lot closer to my home, and we went down to Little Rock. So we were about 6 hours away from my parents, and we would go fairly often. But when Hurricane Katrina hit, we immediately went down to help. And what a that really one of those life-changing moments when
Hmm.
I saw firsthand the power of nature, the devastation, and also the human behavior.
Hmm.
You kind of see people at their best, and sometimes, unfortunately, people at their worst when circumstances like that happen. But it on a positive side, it's nice to see when neighbors get together and there's some needs that have to be taken care of. There's people with need to keep medication cold, for example. And
Yeah.
at the time, uh, it was, I think there were weeks without electricity for many of those places.
Uh-huh.
And so neighbors banded together with other neighbors and shared resources and helped people. That was fun to see.
About a week, I lived in North Carolina, in the mountains of North Carolina at the time, and about a week after the storm, I packed my son's big Chevy station wagon and with stuff, and I drove down there, and I came in the east side of the Mississippi Delta. I mean, not the Mississippi Delta, but the Gulf Coast,
Yeah.
and drove across, stopping everywhere I could to find out what was going on. Because that was I had I was writing a weblog at that point, and so I was going to report on what I was seeing. I mean, this is before social media, but I was doing the social media kind of reporting. This is what I'm seeing, and if you particularly focused on churches getting groups of people in their churches to come down and help, and it was so interesting because of the people who came. So I was in Biloxi, and in Biloxi, I'm sure you know this. They have this big football stadium, and they took the stadium and they enclosed underneath the stands and turned it into a residential center for volunteers who were coming down to help. And the family that was running it lived in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And when they decided, what they did was they locked their doors, got in their car, and came down and said, "How can we help?" And they turned
Mm.
over the operation of this center to them. I mean, it was amazing. Then I got over to Diamond Head, is it Diamond Head, I think,
It sounds familiar.
over near where the big casino is, a couple of
Oh
big
yeah.
casinos, and I go in, I'm just going into town and I'm just asking questions. And I go to churches and find out what's going on. And I met a woman. I mean, this is prolonging the story too long, but met a woman who was from Illinois, and she had when things happen, she packed a bag of clothes and she packed a bag of tools. And she went out, I guess, to a truck stop and hitched a ride down to the Gulf Coast, and not knowing what she was going to find. And when she got down there, she was in. I can't remember the name of the town, but it's right there on the Gulf Coast. And she just started helping rebuild houses or helping she did this. And she ended up staying there and starting a nonprofit focused on building houses for low income people.
Oh, wow.
And and she ended up having to play politics with the community because the community wanted to act like, okay, we've gone through all this, we're okay now. But she said the community's not okay now. We've got all these broken houses that need to be repaired. We need new houses and all that. And so she became a champion of people who were homeless and or who had really compromised homes. And
Yeah.
I just showed up and I just found out about who these people were. So I tell their story and it was really great. I really love Mississippi. I love Mississippi, and that's part of why I like it because it's um it's a place of community.
Yes. Yeah. The state of hospitality, I think, is their maybe their motto.
Oh, is that right? Well, it's really true. So the fact that you're from Mississippi ranks you high in my pantheon of places that you can be from. So,
Well, thank you. That's not always the case. So thank you.
oh, I know, I hear that, and people, well, that's a whole other thing. We don't need to go into that.
Well,
So,
I met my wife. She just to give you a bit of a contrast. Some great romantic comedies are often, opposites attract. I have a beautiful wife, so there's one contrast to me. She was born in New York City, Manhattan, and she listens to audiobooks on 2 times speed. In fact, if she listens to this, she's probably listening on 2 times speed. And I talk probably more like 0.75. So she has developed a lot of patience with me. Um, but
well,
yeah,
it's
being
good to do
from
that. Yep.
Mississippi.
Yeah.
So we've been married for 26 years. We have 5 children. Youngest is 13. Oldest will be 25 soon. So I've learned a
Congratulations.
lot from them. And I think, the original topic maybe we were going to touch on was because your podcast is a bit about leadership. And
Yeah.
that's a topic that's fascinated me. But I've learned a lot being a father, being a husband, about leadership.
Tell us something. I'd love to know what you see. I'm interviewing a woman who's a school teacher who went to be a homeschool mother, and she has 5 children. So there's a similarity there, and I can't wait to find out what she thinks. But yeah,
Yeah,
talk about this.
yeah, I think I like how Stephen Covey wrote the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I like how he defines leadership. I like it a lot. He defines it as a form of communication. He says it's communicating to others their worth and their potential so clearly that they come to see it in themselves. And if you think about the role of a parent with children that struggle with lots of things, helping them understand their potential and their worth and helping them overcome the challenges that life brings. It's a constant thing. Especially I've found when I'm tired and I'm ready to go to bed, it seems like teenagers are ready to talk right then for whatever reason. Uh, but we've had some good conversations. I haven't always been at my best because when I get tired, and they will tell you that I'm not as patient as I should be. But I've learned first and foremost about leadership from being a dad. And to me, leadership is about influence much more than it is about a position or a title.
Hmm.
And I think anyone can be a leader. Anyone can be a positive. I hope we all are a positive force for good in our communities.
How did you come to see that, have that perspective? I mean, because I share that perspective because my definition of leadership is all leadership begins with personal initiative to create impact that makes a difference that matters. Now that's the way I see it, and that means that anybody can be a leader. That's
Yeah.
like that. So where did you? How did you come to have this perspective?
I think it probably began with both my parents, in particular my father. I used to ride along with him on a Snap-on tool truck. He sold Snap-on tools
Is that right? Oh, wow.
for over 40 years. He was known as the tool guy, and
Uh,
I would ride along in his tool van. You picture just racks of automotive tools, and also up on the ceiling. I'd often, as I'm riding along in the back of the van, hoping and praying that none of them would fall and hit me in the head or something. But
yeah.
I would see the interactions that my dad had with others, and part of it was, sales. He loved selling because at the heart of that, it's helping people with overcome problems or challenges that they're facing. It could be as simple as selling them a better tool to fix a vehicle, but he just had a way with people. I mean, people seem to leave his van happier than when they came in. He also we'd go together and he'd put in Zig Ziglar and Norman Vincent Peale and some other thought leaders, early thought leaders around. I would just love listening to the stories. I like a good story. And I think that probably started me out on an early age of what is thought leadership? What type of person do others enjoy being around, and someone who helps them accomplish more than maybe even what they think they can accomplish.
I think those early influencers, like Norman Vincent Peale, who my father got to know.
Wow.
Yeah, I have somewhere in my files. I have a picture of the two of them walking into his office. So, and then Zig Ziglar and other people like that. I think what sets them apart is that they are very aware that what the leader does is the leader serves.
Yes, yeah, 100%. Um, you know, Many people mistakenly think that leadership is having a title and telling people what to do. It's not that simple. It's you can tell them what to do and maybe use more of the stick than the carrot, and get some temporary results from time to time, but often it comes at a cost down the road, even if you do get them to do what you want them to do. Um, yeah, yeah. It's bringing out people in their best.
So do you have this kind of conversation with your children about leadership?
They probably get bored with me. I mean, it was my career for a while. I sold leadership development products for about 8.5 years, and
Oh,
so
you did.
yeah, I used to show them inspirational videos, hoping they would have the same level of interest that I had with my dad, and some of them enjoyed it, especially when it was a funny video, well done video or something. But I had to be careful not to use it. Not, I didn't want them to feel like I was using techniques on them to try and, get them to trick them into doing something I wanted.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
I totally agree.
yeah, later in life, they're starting to come around. I have a son who's working he's got a summer job as a pest control technician, and he interacts a lot with people, and he's just got a great way about him interacting with others, and he's putting the tools to work. When you're in a position where it calls upon you to use those tools for your benefit and for others' benefit, it's fun to see uh, the fruits of your labor. You know, it's easier. I think it's easier to adopt these um, these attributes when you can see them put to good use.
It sounds like he's a lot like your father.
Probably a lot like my dad. Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. That's really beautiful. And it sounds like he's someone I should be talking to as well.
Maybe he's got stories.
I'm sure he does. Well, when I, when my children were young, so my oldest was probably 10, 11, somewhere in there, and my youngest was only 5. I decided I was going to start treating them as adults because I could foresee what was going to happen. That they'd keep asking me questions, and I would have to have all the answers, and I know I didn't have all the answers. And then it just dawned on me is this, if they're going to be asking questions, then I need to let them answer their questions, and I need to create the expectation that it's okay for them to answer their own questions, which is really saying I'm really would rather you act as an adult at the age of 12 than act as a 12-year-old at the age of 12. And and that ended up working because what it did was it allowed me just to ask the question in return. So, my daughter would say, so, well, why do you think that he's talking about some person at school or something like that? Why do you think that person said that? I said, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah.
And my sons would always have some kind of answer. And so I think what they wanted was they wanted to see whether I would think their answer was wrong or I would reject it or something like that. And I said, no, because I knew that they're going to go through this process of discovery as to what they really think. And I'd rather them go through that process as early as possible than delay it by somehow feeling like I need to control their development.
Yeah, I've found great value in doing what you did, which is asking them rather than giving them an answer, asking them a question to help them sometimes discover the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Liz Wiseman. If you're familiar with Liz, she wrote a book called Multipliers, and
Yep.
she describes for a leader a currency that a leader has at their disposal are questions. So in order to get great work output from your team, if you're using the right questions that really prompt them to stop and think, and also makes sure they understand you're not the one that has all the answers, that the answers come from the group, from the team. Uh, but a leader can be really effective when they ask good thought-provoking questions.
So how many of your children have been in college so far?
I have my oldest has his master's. He got his master's in math from Wake Forest here in Winston-Salem.
Great.
Uh, and I have my next two, my my son and my only daughter are both in this beginning their third year soon together. They So that's cool. He's going into entrepreneurship, and my daughter is an artist. She just got accepted into the illustration program.
Good.
Uh, and then my fourth is going into a senior year in high school, and then we've got a almost out of middle school son.
So you got a few more years of parenting still to go. Of course, you'll be parenting all the rest of the
Quieter,
time.
but there's still some noise.
Well, it sounds like they have some clarity about where they want to go in life and what they're going to do, and I think that's fantastic. And
More than I did, which is good.
do you think they learn from you? From
I think
Excuse,
I think
let me restate this
yeah.
question. Do you think they learn from how you experience life?
I try and provide them with learning opportunities. Being a parent maybe is the most difficult job there is. It's full of uh, joys and sometimes heartbreak. When you love someone and you see them making mistakes, and knowing when to step in as a parent and rescue them and when to let them learn through their mistakes. That's a hard thing for me. I think they're learning. I hope they are. Probably more from their mom, who's very patient, kind. I can sometimes let the emotion of the moment dictate some of my words or actions, but not always. We've got a good partnership, my wife and I. So sometimes when she's unhappy and at risk of emotions showing, I may step in and handle it, and vice versa. We seem to work well together there.
So that gives your children an image of what a marriage is like, actually like, and a healthy marriage is like, and that's also very good.
Yeah, I've been blessed exceedingly.
So I know you're a musician, and let's first talk about the orchestra, and then go back and talk about how you came to be involved in that. So tell us about the orchestra that I witnessed a couple of weeks ago in their final concert of the spring.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Salem Community Orchestra is a community orchestra located in Winston-Salem. Um, we just celebrated not too long ago, I believe it was our 40th anniversary. It's founded by a gentleman named Jim Basta, who's no longer with us. He passed, I believe, in 2020, or yeah, 2020. Um, he was the conductor for 33 years.
Wow.
And I think I found it fascinating. I did a little research ahead of this of our time together into how that orchestra began, and mainly I found it fascinating because the topic I chose, at least I suggested to you, was how good leaders can be intentional about creating a culture. And when a culture is strong, people want to be there. They want to contribute. They do their best work in a strong culture. And this was absolutely true with Jim Basta. When, in fact, I wrote a few quotes down from a little memoir that he has. And if it's okay, I'll read a couple of
Oh,
them.
absolutely.
Because one of my ideas around leadership is be intentional. Go about it from a standpoint of creating something on paper first. Okay, what type of culture do I want to have? And it could be in your family, it could be in your church, or it could be in the team you lead at work. Uh, so, doing a good job defining why we exist. And I think he did a great job of that. His words, an orchestra not for the community, but one for the player musicians of the community. He later said, fun and recreation for the orchestra was and is the first mission and purpose of the Salem Community Orchestra. So that he really wanted to distinguish this group from maybe other musical groups in the community. And not that I'm not saying that one way is better than the other. There are some phenomenal uh, musical organizations in our community. I feel real blessed to be able to go just within an hour, go to hear some incredible performances. But he was really intentional about let's have a place for musicians to have fun and grow. And he described, interestingly, a complaint that he received from one of his players. He says, in response to a complaint by a former player that she felt no prestige playing with the group, I would then explain that participation in the orchestra was never intended to give prestige to the players or the conductor. Uh, so he saw it. In fact, later he said, this is the last quote I'll read to you. He said, those players who outgrew the group moved on to other situations or orchestras. The Salem Community Orchestra was a sort of stepping stone for them. More power and success to those players. The Salem Community Orchestra served them well. And I thought that was really interesting. He knew, and actually, Jim himself has a very remarkable history as a musician. He has played in some top-notch groups, including he had played for several presidents of the United States. He was the White House organ player at one time. So, he was
Wow.
a very accomplished musician. And this accomplished musician created a different type of organization. And I find, Ed, that it's just remarkable that today, and you got a chance to experience it a little bit as an audience member, but today the Salem Community Orchestra is very much still true to the original created culture that Jim founded. We have fun. None of us get paid. Um, there's a little bit of a stipend for the director just to cover some costs associated with that role, but the rest of us volunteer our time. In fact, we pay dues to be a part of the group. Um, and we lovingly do it because of the culture that exists there.
How many, I mean, how many are in the orchestra?
There's about 50.
And how many of them would consider themselves professional musicians?
Well, that's a good question. Um, I don't think I'd consider myself a professional musician. I think very few of them, maybe if any, make their living as a musician.
You see, that is what was so remarkable to me.
Yeah,
I'm listening to this orchestra. I mean, you're playing Copeland and you're playing Rhapsody in Blue. I mean, and it was incredible. It was incredible. And these are all amateur musicians, all doing this out of the love of the music, of the love of playing, and the love of being this orchestra. I mean, that's what I saw. And that's my
yeah.
first experience with you all. But that came through very clearly that we love doing this and we love the people that we were playing with. And that's really an unusual thing from my experience that people can find themselves in a very demanding sort of avocation where that's the result.
Oh, it's true. And and I credit that a lot to the leadership we've had. Danny Green is now retiring from the orchestra. He's moved to the Raleigh area to be closer to his family, and he and his wife have generously given to the community. He's been director of orchestras and bands, and just we'll miss him a lot. But he's done a lot to maintain that culture. It is about culture. I'll say as well. I've been under the direction, under the baton, if you will, of some phenomenal conductors who have created a different kind of culture, and maybe appropriate to their organization, to the culture, the type of organization they're creating. Uh, One in particular comes to mind at the University of Southern Mississippi. A phenomenal conductor. He inspired me to learn conducting. I remember going into the woods and carving a stick into a baton because of how beautiful I thought this gentleman conducted. Interestingly enough, when I attended college under his direction, uh, I'll tell you a quick story. I there were I'm a saxophonist, is my primary instrument, and I went to the University of Southern Mississippi. At the time I was there were 27 saxophone majors at the university. We had a really well-known saxophone professor there. And these are all that's a large group of professionals. It was very competitive. We had graduate students, and I remember I tended to do okay. Out of the 27, I typically might place somewhere between fifth and eighth position. Well, the top group took only four saxophonists out of 27. I remember at one audition, it was a blind audition, and I have a real good musical ear. And I really am a poor sight reader. That was always my challenge. But sight reading, if for non-musicians, is you put a brand new piece of music in front of you and you say, okay, play this without any practice ahead of time. I'm not very good at that. I can learn some music and practice. You be diligent about learning something, but just playing something with minimal errors the first time through has been always been a challenge of mine. I do have a good ear, And rather than such a focus on the sight reading component in this one, they invited us to, okay, play the school's fight song starting on the in the key of D. And I could do that. I have a good ear. And I did quite well. And I placed fourth chair, which I barely made this band. And we went on to play in the National College Band Directors Association National Convention. I mean, it was a lot of fun. But the conductor frequently would make students cry, and just he was a disciplinarian. I remember we were playing this very, very challenging piece of music. It was just a rehearsal, it wasn't a performance. And I was on the baritone saxophone. And this was very complex music where you had to count. Most music, you kind of set the time signature and it regular repeats the same kind of time signature over and over. This one changed every couple of measures. It was very difficult. And I made the mistake of playing an arrest. And he immediately stopped the rehearsal, pointed at me and said, "Barry, saxophone player, didn't they teach you to count in first grade? Stop playing in the rests." And I was embarrassed. Um, and later that same day, we walked by each other in the hall, and he says, "Hey, Richard, it's nice to see you." A completely different person. When he stood on the podium, he became a very strict disciplinarian. And he got a lot, yes, he got a lot out of the group, but there were also costs. I was happier the next semester being fifth chair rather than fourth because it meant that I was in the next band down. I had some fun parts in that one as well, but I was more comfortable in that group. I had more fun because the environment was more to my liking. Now, there's certainly something to be said for the prestige of being in the top band and being around fine musicians playing incredible music. But I had more personal enjoyment and fulfillment being one chair down.
The night I saw the orchestra, you conducted two one piece, but two parts of the piece in separate sections of the concert. And have you done more of that sort of thing, doing conducting?
Yeah, I've the Salem Community Orchestra. I've for a number of years I've led choirs at church and other music. I'll arrange and organize community musical events utilizing talent at church or around in the community. And I enjoy doing that. I've kind of grown into it little by little, and since when I moved here to Winston-Salem, that was really the first time I'd ever held a baton in front of an orchestra. It was daunting. I still feel ill prepared for it. And I think when you and I first met, you asked me, "Are you going to be the next director?" And I said, "No, I'm very content being the associate director.
Yeah.
Uh, not
Yeah.
maybe 10 years down the road if they need one."
Well, my story is that I grew up here and I left after high school, went to UNC Chapel Hill, but I vowed I would never return. I had this energy and want of exploration that was going to take me, and that's exactly what has happened. And my family were members at First Presbyterian downtown, and they always had a good music program. And then I'm sure you know Michael Dodds.
Yeah, the name sounds, yes, yeah.
He's our music director. He also teaches at the North Carolina School of the Arts, and he's been a guest on the podcast year and a half ago. And so I decided when I came back here, I would go to my home church and I would join the choir.
Mhm.
And he's running basically because he's been there for 20 years, and he's basically got people trained almost like they're professionals. And I'm walking into this thing totally cold. I don't know how to read music. I don't know what my voice is. I don't know anything other than I've done a lot of speaking in my life, so it was really hard, but it was also very rewarding. And I found myself totally overwhelmed with emotion so many times. Almost every rehearsal, every Sunday morning, there was some moment when what we were singing was just touching me at such a deep level that I didn't know why. It was just it was. And I'm thinking about people who live this way and how
Mhm.
they have to guard their emotions because they would be emotional mess all the time because a lot of the music a lot of the music we do it in church, but a lot of music you just can do anywhere has such a resonance, a deep resonance of humanity to it that it just really kind of takes over and um, just kind of runs
You know,
through.
I love what you shared, Ed. I've found, I've had the occasion to lead choirs at our church for a while, and some larger, our typical congregation size might be 150 people, but occasionally we'll have some conferences where several hundred will get together, and in those instances, I'll form a choir to, present music in this service, and I absolutely love that. Mainly because what gives me tremendous joy is seeing individuals who consider themselves very average become part of a group that they feel, and rightly so, is world class.
Mhm.
And I believe I'm not crediting this to my leadership. I'm more organizing and getting people that share the same vision and values and culture, getting them together, organizing them, waving my hand in a funny looking way to get everybody together. Um, and the magic happens because of when you get a group of average people together for the right reasons, for the right cause, and that you become unified in what you want to accomplish, you truly can accomplish something amazing.
It is the
It
most
happens
beautiful
all the
thing. It is the most beautiful thing because there is nothing inhibiting them. They have abandoned the things which cause them to be hesitant, and they're saying,
time.
"I'm going to immerse myself. I'm going to take initiative. I'm going to become as much a part of this as I can." And when someone reaches that point, when they cross that point, where they say, "I'm going to do all that I can to make the most of this moment of opportunity I have," that's when you realize how great life can be if you
Yeah.
allow it be the place where you take that initiative.
And I've seen circumstances where we've had individuals who have felt, I'm not good enough to join this group. I'm not a good singer. They want to. And in some cases, I've said, just come join us. We're better with you than without you. And what I'll do is pair them up with a really strong singer next to them. In some
Yeah,
cases, one gentleman, not very good.
happens to
Okay,
me. Yeah.
struggled. I have really strong singer on this ear, really strong singer on this other ear, and they come along for the journey, and you can accomplish some great things as you're deploying your resources in a strategic way like that. A lot of analogies you could draw in business as well by doing that type of thing, but it's just creating that environment where people feel welcome to come and contribute their best, whatever their best is. And as we do that, the results can really far exceed. I mean, I've seen some phenomenal musicians that are really good soloists not make great choir members because they can't blend with the choir, or they can't step down from the soloist's role and learn to be just a part of the choir versus the headliner, if you will.
Do you have um, certain genres, certain periods of history, certain composers that you like to play more than others?
Oh yeah, personally, it's it seems to fluctuate a little bit, and it
Yeah.
might depend on the type of music. For choral music, I do enjoy a lot that Beckenhorst Press puts out. If you're familiar with that publishing company, I also like that they have viewable music before you print it or buy it, and very good recordings so you can hear um, eh,
Is that Dan
that.
Forrest work?
Dan Forrest, yeah. Dan Forrest,
Yeah.
Craig Courtney, Elaine Hagenberg,
Oh, yeah.
phenomenal musicians.
Oh my gosh.
Really touching, beautiful, touching music.
These are
Um,
people you should be listening to, my audience.
yes,
Um,
it's
you
very
can find them on
uplifting.
YouTube. You can Elaine Hagenberg, Dan Forrest. I mean, these other, and you will find it to be a transcendent experience.
Yeah, even if you're not a person of faith, listening to this music can still uplift and provide
It
hope
it's not
times of
really religious.
yeah,
It's spiritual
yeah,
within the Christian tradition, and
yeah.
that's a very I'm a retired minister, by the way. I don't know
Okay.
if I said that, but that's a very specific way of looking at the world of faith. You have the world of the institutional church, and you have the world of spirituality, which is both personal, but it's also communal.
Yeah,
It's also a kind of where we get taught, and there's a discipling that goes on. There's often very separate from one another, but when they come together, it's really quite magic. It's really
yeah,
significant.
yeah. I like things that unify, and that great music unifies. Um, I also on the orchestral side, I really it's maybe an odd choice, but I like Danny Elfman's music a lot. He wrote the music for The Simpsons and for most of Tim Burton's music or movies like I think Pee Wee Herman was his first, and The Nightmare Before Christmas, and very quirky, very a little bit dark.
Fun,
Yeah,
fun music.
fun,
Yeah.
lyrical, but modern. Yeah, I enjoy that a lot as well. Of course, with all the greats like Beethoven and Mozart and others.
So can you give us a preview of what's coming next year with the
Yeah,
Salem
yeah. The Salem Community Orchestra.
Community Orchestra?
We're we are likely to have our next concerts be holiday concerts, Christmas. Around the holiday season, and we'll present those. We don't have dates yet. Stay tuned. Salem Community Orchestra. Google that, and you'll find the website. We'll put together holiday music for that. We'll also be in conductor search mode. We need a new director. Sadly, Danny has moved. So we'll be conducting that search and be inviting some individuals who've already raised their hands to say, consider me. We'll give them opportunities to audition in front of the group. And we'll see. It'll be exciting to see, but we'll want to make sure that the next conductor is one who can maintain the positive culture that we've had. We want to have as much fun as we have been having. And that's the reason we go. That's moments of change like this, where you've got a leadership change, can be disruptive. We want everyone who's been participating to continue to participate. We want our audience to continue getting their money's worth out of their free concerts. Um, and so that'll be a tall order to find another conductor. I'm happy that I'm not under consideration. I like being in the background and being of support.
So that will this conduct? I mean, I'm just curious about all these different facets of this organization. Will this conductor be a full-time position and they're paid full-time, or they're volunteer or basically a compensated volunteer?
Yeah, I don't think anyone will do it for the money. There is a little more of a stipend to help defray some of the costs associated with their time, and it's not much, but yeah, it would likely be someone who's semi-retired, perhaps someone still maybe in the musical community teaching at a public institution, perhaps. We have a number of folks who've raised their hands that look good and are known to us. Some of them members now of the orchestra who've stepped in on short notice to provide for when Danny couldn't be at one particular
Good.
concert. So in the meantime, I'll be the interim guy, and we're excited. I need to pick some music. It's hard to top. We're not going to be able to top what you attended, but I still hope you come out for our
Well,
next.
I don't want you to top it. I just want you to do something interesting. And,
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much out there. I'm a subscriber to the Berlin Philharmonic channel,
Oh, wow.
so I can turn it on my TV, and and I can go to a a link which will give me 4 hours of concert music, and it's and it may all be Brahms or Beethoven or whatever it may be. But that's the way but so here's my last question for you, because I look at this not only from a musical interest point of view, and I'm also looking at it from a leadership point of view, as you have described. But I'm also looking at this in terms of how does an organization like this have an effect upon the community at large? And what is it that the community gains by this? And do we need more kinds of organizations like this to strengthen the community?
Yeah, what a great question. I may have mentioned this quote in the concert, but Ralph Waldo Emerson says, "When words fail, music speaks."
Yeah.
I found that true to me. Music has healed my heart in times of sadness, or loneliness. It's given me hope. It's almost a conduit to helping me connect with my spirit. And I think others in the audience, they come for their own reasons. Some come looking for something. They may come looking for some hope. Some may come because they have loved ones in the group and they enjoy seeing them find joy in presenting the music. Others come because past loved ones that have passed away were participants in the group, and it's a way for them to remember them. Others come and bring their children in hopes that they'll learn instruments or keep practicing when they're nagged by their parents,
Yeah.
so that they can one day join a group like that. And I think people come for various reasons. And we just hope to get the word out a little bit more. And the concerts are free, and they're a lot of fun. We
Great.
have a
Yeah.
And if no one came, it'd still be a really fun rehearsal for us. But we hope lots of people come.
Well, I'll be there at your next one because I really liked it. I mean, I was really surprised. Now, I know that if you've listened to a lot of professional orchestras, I know that you can hear the difference. But that's the beauty of it, because, okay, maybe it's a little slower. It maybe there's some moments of where you're off key a little bit, but the beauty of it is here these people are giving their time to create this music for their community. And I mean
And it's
that
real.
to me is the most significant thing about all of this.
Yeah, it's real. And when you're there in person, it's palpable. I mean, there's one thing you could have a very expensive sound system in your home, but when you're surrounded by the music, by being at a venue, hearing it from live from members of the orchestra. There's a different, and you're right, there are mistakes. There certainly are. And that makes it a little more real, I think. We learn from our mistakes, and but we still keep I think the trick is that mistakes are going to come. It's just, can you
Well, all these
can you
famous
learn?
orchestras that make mistakes.
What's that?
The famous orchestras, New York and LA and London and Berlin, they're all making mistakes. There's always going to be that aspect of it, but they're better at covering it up. So
That's
you don't
probably
rec
true.
unless you're a trained musician, you're not going to hear that. And so it's a great thing that you all are doing. I really like it, and I'm grateful that it exists in my community.
Well, we're delighted to share it with the community. We're proud to be part of this community. Winston-Salem is just such a beautiful place to live. The arts, I've lived in a number of places. This is our sixth home I've owned. And the arts are very much alive and healthy here.
That is very true. And if to the audience, if you are considering moving somewhere, or you just need to make a change in the arts, whether it's music or dance or whatever it may be, is something that is important to you, you should consider Winston-Salem because as they say, it's the city of arts and innovation.
Yeah,
Um, and it truly is. So, well, thank you, Richard, for being here.
my
Um,
pleasure.
send me some stuff to put in the show notes and send me a picture, and then we'll celebrate the Salem Community Orchestra and the effect that it has, the impact it has on our community, and for your leadership in the various ways that you have given to it. I thank you for that.
My pleasure, Ed. Great to be with you today. Thank you.
And thank you all for watching, and I hope you will. Let me suggest that you go try to find those arts institutions in your community and support them, whether they're music or visual arts or whatever they may be, but support them because they're contributing to your community in ways you don't know. And until you engage with it, you do not know. But when you do engage with it, you will discover something that you've been missing, and you'll be glad that you have found it. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next time here on the Eddie Network podcast. Bye bye.